Good morning. So welcome everybody. I am Marjorie and many of us have met before and some new faces. And this is our monthly series, Small Business Big Impact. And really, Tevis Trower, who's the CEO of Balance Integration, I'm the president of the Small Business Division of Balance Integration. We started this together to support you, small business leaders and owners, to help you in whatever you need to get the tools that you need to be successful. So it's marketing, it's legal, it's financial, et cetera, et cetera. And we've gotten some great feedback. So I appreciate those of you.
It just is.
And I welcome those of you who are new. And if you could mute yourselves, there'll be plenty of opportunity to interact and ask questions. We like to set it up that way. And Petia is back. We're by popular demand. She led the social
and he's been showing.
Yeah, thank you. So you led the social media one. That was back in February. And so that was very popular and there was a lot that we covered. So when talking about it some more, we said, how can we also support small businesses and lead gen, creating a funnel for leads and how to convert leads, etc., rose to the top as a great resource. And it's kind of near and dear to my heart because although I'm very focused on small businesses and executive coaching now and helping people solve a problem or challenge or grow, I started my career at Ogilvy Mather Direct in direct marketing. Now in those days, direct marketing meant tons of junk mail, right? People called it their junk mail. And what was considered celebratory success was a 1% response rate. Right. And so for those of you who might have been in that world, and I mean, Joe's a printer, right? So who had to print all kinds of things for that world. And things have changed, right? Things have changed. And I've changed too. You know, I went from that world into the nonprofit world. And I took all those skills, all those people skills, all those how to run a business skills, how to ask for money skills, and created a new path for myself where I now use all those skills to help these small businesses pivot, especially in a global pandemic, support leaders in what they need to accomplish and help their teams do, as well as take care of themselves during that time. So that's why I'm here. I'm going to introduce Petia in a second. I wanted to set some ground rules, you know, just to create a really open and shared and trusting space. We want interaction, we want questions, post things into the chat. We'll have plenty of time for those questions throughout. I know some people have 10 o'clock meetings and need to leave, totally fine. We're recording this and we can share it with you afterwards if you've missed anything, and you can certainly book a one-on-one with me or with Petia to get some guidance to see if it makes sense to work together. Please also know this is kind of a friendly social but no pitch zone. So we all are trying to build our businesses, but let's respect each other's time and feel free to put your email in the chat and share that with each other, and totally want to encourage that, but to not use the limited time to sort of pitch, right? So that kind of group. So that's where I want to start. This is really about creating revenue, right? We all need to grow. When I looked at your answers to your questions, to the question around what's your biggest challenge, four things seem to rise to the top, right? It was about target audience. How do I find them? How do I build it? What are the good sources for it? It was about consistency. How do I build a consistent funnel and lead generation program, right? That will result in me getting qualified leads, right? It's about getting qualified leads. It was about, qualified leads, as I mentioned, and connecting. How do I truly connect? So let me just show you something really quickly. This is how not to connect. This is an email I got this morning at 9:08 this morning. It was totally appropriate, right? If you notice the title, they forgot to merge or something they forgot to do, right, Petia? And although they're saying nice to meet me, they clearly, did not figure out how to work out the kinks and make it personalized, which is important. They did a good job with bullet pointing and things like that. So we could talk about things like that, but I just thought that was a really relevant example. And lastly, I'm just going to launch a poll just to sort of help inform the next one of these, but also help understand what you guys are facing. So when you're thinking of your clients and how long it takes to seal the deal, right? We want to kind of know what's happening in your world. So I'm going to launch this poll. And so the first question is about what's the next topic, right? Where do you want to gain support? And then the next one is relevant for today. Most of you are almost done here. Well, sales strategy seemed to be the big winner. So far, 10 out of 12 of you. 2 more are voting. And I'm happy to see that none of you chose the no freaking idea so far. So I'll close it. I think 2 of you didn't get a chance to vote, but is anybody voting that? Just need another second? No. Here are the results. Can you guys see?
Yes.
So sales strategies, I think that'll be the next one. And cool, between 1 and 3 months, decent amount of you, or under 3 months, basically. So 7 of you. And then some of you, it takes a little bit longer. So I'm now going to pass it over to Petia, who is an amazing marketer. She is the lead strategist and principal at Stylista. And she, I mean, there's so much I've learned from her already, and I'm really excited to pass the mic to her. And we'll, so tell us, how do we get leads? What do we do? How do we create this?
Right.
What is it?
Okay. So I think the starting point before we get into any sort of lead nurturing conversations or even lead generation conversations, the starting point for all of this is knowing exactly who your ideal target audience is. Unless you know that, then doing anything else will not work for you. And
So
the
how
reason
many of you know who your target audience is?
ideal, not the people who you work with who you really don't like or aren't really hitting the mark, but your ideal buyer persona. And it's very easy to have several of those, okay? So if you have current clients, think of the top 3 clients who they get it, they don't complain about your fees, they understand this is a commitment and they work with you over the long term. They're not looking for results a week later, right? Those are usually indications that you're working with someone who's an ideal target customer. And it does take some time to get there. It took me some time to get there. And sometimes I still struggle with it because I think, especially as a small business owner, I feel like the need for what we do is vast, right? People always need help with whatever we're providing, but they aren't always the right target customer. And so we really need to get in front of the ideal target customer first. So that is the starting point.
Let me interject for 1 second and underscore something that you said. Like, you know, it's easy to feel dejected when you're thinking about this. And I mean, no matter what your size, if you're freaking Coca-Cola, you know, you still are doing a lot of hard work to figure out who your target audience is, because it's changing all the time. That's why they create so many products, right?
Right.
So I think Petia and I were talking about this before, like, don't get down on yourself if you're feeling frustrated by this, because it's like being a detective. You really have to roll up your sleeves and dig into the data and play and get playful and curious and figure this crap out. You know, I won't curse, but so I just want to underscore that, like, don't feel like you're doing anything wrong. If you're doing anything right now to understand your target audience and generate some communication or some response from them, you're learning.
That's a step in the right direction. And I would say that, you know, if you don't have any customers, I don't think this applies to anyone here, but if you don't have any customers yet, then this would be, I would say, one of the first places to invest in your business, to actually have someone help you to figure it out. so that when you're starting out, you're not making too many mistakes along the way, right? Having a little bit of a clue is better than just going out there and casting the net too far and wide. All right. So
Isn't
starting out,
So I just want to underscore that. Casting this is a colossal waste of time.
right,
Right?
always. All right. Okay, so that's the starting point, target audience. And I know you guys get it, so I don't need to stress that anymore. Now, once you have an idea of who that ideal target audience is, and like I said, there can be several pools depending on the service or the product that you're offering, then the next step is to figure out where those people are looking for information about products and services similar to yours. Where do they already live? Where are they already interacting? Where are they asking questions? Where are they sharing positive reviews from other service providers? And I feel like that is the second part where many small businesses fall short, because there's so much buzz out there. You have to do this. You have to have 6 social media profiles. You have to be sending emails every day. You have to be doing videos, whatever it is out there, right? That it can become really overwhelming. You honestly only need to be where your ideal target customers are. And so if they're only on LinkedIn, that's the only place you need to be, right? You don't, it's pointless, especially as a small business owner, setting up all of these profiles, because these profiles need to be managed. And if they aren't managed properly, then that is not really articulating your brand story or your brand image the way that it should be articulated, right? So again, we want to keep this interactive. If you already know who your ideal target customer is, how many of you have a pretty good idea where you should be marketing yourself to get immediately in front of them? And this could be both online and offline. Okay, do you guys want to share? Nancy and Joe?
Sure. My target audience is really on LinkedIn,
Okay,
if we're talking about social media. And the
right.
other way is obviously, just picking up the phone and reaching out to people.
Okay, and so you do both, correct? And where would you say of those 2 methods, where do you get the most success?
That's why I'm on this call with you.
Okay, all right, great.
And Joe, are you reaching out on the phone to people that you already know, or are you reaching out on the phone to, is it cold calling?
No, cold calling. I'm talking about finding new customers, not developing business with existing customers. That's a whole other conversation for probably another topic. But I'm employing a sales strategist that's cold calling in the United States domestically, making calls to prospects. I'm currently paying somewhere in the neighborhood of about $65 an hour and not getting any results. And the leads are great. The challenge is that people aren't in an office right now.
Right.
And calls are going out to cell sites and cell phone numbers, and people aren't picking up the phone.
So that's
how long?
Challenge, right?
Right. How long has this calling campaign been going on without any results?
3 months. I mean, not no results. I mean,
but
I had a call this morning with somebody, but the numbers are horrific.
Okay. All right. So we can talk a little bit more about that later. Nancy, you had raised your hand. Where are you? Who's your ideal target audience, and how are you reaching them currently?
My target audience is managers and small business owners, so usually operations and risk managers. So I'm looking at LinkedIn because in part because of the last time you were on and some of the work I've been doing since then. I realized LinkedIn, referrals, and my teaching are the 3 biggest sources of where I'm getting new business. And a lot of the other stuff I've been doing has just been a waste of time, energy, and money.
Good. Well, I'm glad you were able to hone in on exactly where you need to be. So lead generation speaks to, first, figuring out where your ideal target customers are, and then casting your net, not far and wide, but casting your net within that specific pool so that then you can attract these people. So that's lead generation, right? Attracting members of your target audience. Now, what we're going to focus on today is lead nurturing. What do you do once you make that connection with them the first time to move them along their customer journey so that they become paid customers, right? So that's the difference.
Pause for a second. I love this distinction. I didn't know there was this distinction, like this language distinction. That's how much of a neophyte I was in terms, and I consider myself a marketer, in terms of lead gen, that there's lead gen, like getting those leads, and Petia will talk about this, but unless you nurture them, nothing is going to happen to them, right? So how do you do it? How do you do it so it's successful? So sorry to interrupt, Petia, but go on.
No. This is great because we spoke about this before, so that's good.
Well, yeah, I had no. I mean, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but I didn't know the distinction, and I appreciate it. It's a really important one.
And also, I think people use them interchangeably sometimes without realizing that you really shouldn't, right? Okay, so lead nurturing, taken care of, right? So that is what really converts customers into paying clients. Now, marketing 101, and this has been true even from direct marketing days, who knows the average exposure that you need to be in front of a qualified lead before they actually convert? How many times? Go ahead, Joe.
7.
7, sometimes 12, depending on the kind of product. Those are usually high-end products, right?
So when
7,
you're feeling like, I already sent them 2 emails, I don't want to annoy them, they probably didn't see it.
Right, exactly. And especially now, right? Middle of a global pandemic, everybody's distracted. Marjorie and I were just saying, sometimes people think I'm ignoring them. I'm not. Their emails went into spam, or I'm just dealing with something else. So you have to be consistent, and you cannot give up the first time that you do this. Okay, so let me share my screen, and I will attempt to really help you to figure out exactly what you should be doing in terms of the types of lead nurturing campaigns that you should deliver to the audiences that you're in front of once they have showed interest in whatever you're marketing to them.
And we'll send this around, right, Petia, so you don't have to copy.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to copy this down. I'll send this in PDF version to Marjorie. And actually, there's a hidden slide with the definitions that we thought it would be best for me to just speak to it, lead generation and lead nurturing. But in the PDF, you will be able to see that. It's just so that you can remind yourself the difference. Okay, so you're in this pool of really qualified leads. And whenever you amount this group of people, you need to not only overtly promote your product, you should be exchanging something of value. And in order for them to receive it, you got to capture their email address. Email marketing to date still has the highest return of investment for all digital marketing efforts. For $1, and I think I did this in the first presentation I did, for every $1 spent on email marketing, if it's done correctly, and I always have to say done correctly, you actually make about $40 in revenue back. All right. So it's not only being where they are and talking about yourself and trying to force them to buy. You should be offering something of value to them. Maybe it's an ebook or something, inviting them to an event that you're presenting at. But the goal here is to get their contact information so that you can then nurture them so that they become paying customers.
So can I interject here a couple of things? I think it's really valuable to understand that email is the thing. As much as we all hate our crowded inboxes, it is key to holding on to and nurturing this lead. And a couple of examples of lead gen. Tevis and I are talking a lot about this, right? And so, for example, I recorded a podcast yesterday, and in terms of getting unique with these things, right? As a result, I offered a give, which is I then created a video of a tool that I find really works with all my clients about solving a business problem. And so that's going to be my lead gen. Sorry, my offer is like, they only get it if they get the email. Or
Perfect.
like Elizabeth, who's on the line, I know is doing something she's giving away a service, etc. So I just wanted to interject. You could get creative about these things, even though email can be kind of boring. Like, just think about being innovative and different as you about these things, right?
And remember, and these people have already expressed an interest, so you shouldn't worry about bothering them. If they don't sign up, well, then that means they weren't interested. The fact that they actually gave you their email address indicates that there's at least some interest. And so then your job after they do that is to continue to keep them interested and hopefully ask questions. Okay.
Exactly. So capture. Get their email.
Capture. That's the first step. So these are the types of nurturing campaigns that you could possibly explore, depending on the kind of business that you have. There are a few others that I may mention at the end, but those are most successful for B2C types of businesses. I think most of us on this call are more B2B, so I thought I'd focus on the ones that tend to work best for us. So your welcome campaign, if you're collecting email addresses, you don't just collect them and then go dark immediately, and all of this should be automated. Okay, so it's not that you're sitting down every day trying to figure out who signed up and who you have to email. This is an automated process, and at the end I'm going to share some programs that you can explore to begin to work on this. Okay, so your welcome campaign, this is for brand new subscribers, and what you're doing here is confirming that yes, they do want to hear from you, and that is them giving you permission to nurture them. Okay, so the welcome campaign, thank you for subscribing, we're all familiar with this. That's the first one. And then a few days after, you should follow up with a second email that delves a little deeper into whatever your product or service is. Again, not selling, not saying, oh, great, you subscribed, now buy my thing, right? But just kind of like getting a little deeper and explaining the value of your product or service, right? Why is your product, the uniqueness of your product or service beneficial to this lead? What will it help them do? How will it move the needle to whatever problem that they have? Okay. And so,
Good.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I just was gonna say about that, how critical that a part of this process is, because we've all been there where someone's just jumped into a pitch.
Right.
And your eyes glaze over and you're like, this person doesn't care who I am, what I need, why I'm talking to them. They just care about what they're trying to sell. Think about your audience. What do they want? Maybe you're not even selling at this point, right? Maybe you're just providing value or something.
That's all you're doing. You're not selling at all. You're giving them the most beneficial information that they should know about your brand. Sometimes it's not even specifically about your brand, but trending things that are happening in the industry that they may not know. Like, oh my God, I had no idea that these are the numbers for January on, I don't know, whatever, right? You guys know your businesses, so you should think of things that should grasp attention. If you do have existing customers, which we all do, I would actually do a survey with them and ask them what it was specifically about you that made them choose you, because nobody is ever only talking to you, right? We would love that. People shop around, as they should. But what was it about you that made them decide to work with you specifically? Those are great nuggets for you to use as you develop these nurturing campaigns. Because chances are, whether it was a pain point that you addressed, whether it was a customer testimonial that you shared, whether it was an event they came to and they heard you speak, chances are that other members of that qualified target audience will be moved by similar, if not the exact things. Okay? So your welcome email, it can be, I like welcome emails to be like just 3 nicely timed drips that just begin to uncover your brand or information that the target audience is looking for. Give them some time. If they have not, and hopefully some people do respond, right? If they have not responded, then we move on to the post-welcome campaign. And the reason why using software is great for this is because you can actually track and see where people are looking around. So all of these campaigns should have trackable links, downloads, and things so that you can get a feel for the information that connected with them during that welcome campaign, and then craft further campaigns like your post-welcome campaign. So maybe you saw that a lot of people downloaded your case studies, right? Just a basic one-pager case study. So maybe in the post-welcome campaign, you need to dive a little deeper into whatever issues or topics were discussed in those posts, in the welcome campaign, in those case studies, right? And here is also a way where, and some nurturing systems are very sophisticated, where you can actually split the responses based on what the audience responded to. So maybe this group of people were interested in case study A, and these group of people were interested in case study B. If you were to send the people who are interested in case study A more information about case study B, you're going to lose them because that's not what they were interested in. So here is where you should split it okay? And then continue down the track where the person who received the email showed interest. So that would be your post-welcome campaign. And so during the post-welcome campaign, you're getting a little more specific. So depending on the interest that they showed, now you follow up with things like blog posts about whatever they showed they were interested in, additional white papers, recommendations, videos, an invitation to a webinar. So maybe the case study that they downloaded spoke about email marketing, right? You know you have an email marketing webinar coming up, XYZ, a couple months from now, right? Because all this stuff has to be kind of like planned in the future. So then a great post-welcome campaign would be to invite them to that webinar so that they can actually have that face-to-face conversation with you. Am I making sense so far, guys? It's kind of like turning some wheels, and we'll have Q&A. So just, write down or in the chat so that we can dive a little deeper. But I want to cover the definitions of all of these.
Yeah,
so you're welcome.
And also write down at some point too, think about what are your things? Like you mentioned a really good point, like case studies, I mentioned video,
right.
ebooks, whatever. There's all kinds of fun tools that you can use to continue to get them, to interact with them and connect with them.
Exactly. What are your content pieces or assets that you currently have? And based on what I share, what may you need to work on developing, right? To engage these people. So your welcome and post-welcome campaigns are for brand new people. Now we're moving down the funnel, right? These people have responded in some way to one of the two welcome campaigns, okay? Now you know that they're definitely interested in this specific product or service. And here is when you do the product deep dive. So you know what, this subgroup of clients, for me, it would be, they don't really care about social media. They're really interested in email marketing. So why would I be nurturing them with social media content? That's a totally wasted opportunity. So now I know I need to really focus deeply on email marketing with this group of people, and my social media people exist over here. So now this is where you really get deep. You can do things like answer frequently asked questions that people have on the topic, okay? Invite questions. What would you like me to, what problem do you have with this specific topic that you want me to help you with, right? So the focus of a product deep dive should be on answering how or why questions. How do we do this? How do I know this is successful? How do I go about choosing the right tools? How do I go about, a lot of people like to share this, tips for hiring. I love this, any of these when I see these. Tips for hiring a great digital marketer, and they tell you why, the things you should look for. And hopefully you're doing this in a way that proves that you're the right person because you have all of these qualities, okay? In terms of content pieces, definitely customer testimonials in video format, preferably, should be shared. Proof of concept papers or case studies again. Research data that prove whatever points that you're saying. So usually when I say that for every $1 of email marketing, you get $40, like there's a graphic that I usually share, not from me, from an industry report, that every year it's not changing. It's been 20 years later and it's still the same graphic, right? So this is not what I'm saying. This is what has been proven true in the industry. Okay. Now, that's your product deep dive. So these people, have expressed interest and you're just educating them. Now, there are people who may show interest, but they're still a little confused. And so they're not really ready for the product deep dive because they need to do a little bit more research, right? There may be confusions, for example, confusing lead gen with lead nurturing. And so before they can actually decide on a specific product or service, they need to understand the industry as a whole, or understand definitions of things. And that would be a education drip series. And how do you know that a prospect is better suited for an education drip series? Usually there's some sort of interaction, like maybe a question they send back to you or a comment that they make on something. So maybe they attended the webinar, but they're still really foggy in terms of making a decision. This person is not ready to close a deal on anything yet. They need some education. And so they need to get comfortable. A lot of people, if they're not comfortable with certain concepts, they just, doing nothing is easier than making a decision, even though they really need the help. And so that is how you would know someone is more suited for an education series. And this is less about you and more about best practices and showing I mean, you can add things like case studies or customer testimonials to back up whatever you're saying, but this should be more best practice general information to help them to get up to speed so that they are comfortable enough, or they feel that they're comfortable enough to make a decision.
I'm seeing more and more of this posts and things like that. Like someone that I know is a graphic designer yesterday posted like 7 reasons why you need a graphic designer besides doing it yourself. Or
Right.
Adam has written something about like why you need a coach. You know, those kinds of things can be just sort of the thing that pushes them a little bit to like, yeah, you know, they're right. I need
Exactly. Exactly. So then we move on to competitive differentiator campaigns. And these usually, honestly, the best way to know this, to know if somebody should be sent here, is to have an actual conversation with them. And so many times this could happen through, you know, outbound calling that's happening in support to these digital campaigns, because I think that combining them is the most effective way to do this, right? So cold calling, I'm not really a fan of cold calling. I like warm calling better than cold calling, because you already know there's an expressed interest. So maybe you had a telephone conversation with this person, and sometimes you just have to ask, like, who else are you evaluating as part of this process? What haven't I told you yet that you may have questions on, that I can send you more information about? This happens to me all the time in email marketing, where people are like, oh, I know you recommended AWeber or whatever, but somebody else told me, and remember, people are speaking to a variety of people about all of this. Somebody else told me Constant Contact was a better choice. Why didn't you recommend that? Okay. Indication that there's still shopping around going on. And so you now need to help them to weigh their options. And this is where the competitive differentiator campaign will come into, right? So the idea here is simple. You gave them your best content in the first few campaigns. They still have questions. They're still exploring other competition. And so here is where you should then very clearly line your product and service up to the competition, so that they can have an equal ground comparison going on. And we're all familiar with this, especially with software as a service offerings. They always do it. There's always some sort of competitor thing on the website where they check off functionality, they check off whatever, and you can clearly see what the difference is between competitor products. Okay.
I really like when I see this too, Petia, because to me it shows that that you have confidence. Like, I know you're shopping around. I know you've got these other options.
Right.
I'm the best, you know, without boasting.
Yeah.
That's kind of a nice way to be authentic and not just come across as being thinking you're the only player, right?
Exactly. And a good way, I think, to win this mini war also is to have some sort of customized offering. Because many times it's still hard for them to differentiate, because everybody's doing the same thing. I mean, let's be honest here, right? In 2021, it's really difficult to stand out. But I found when I say things like, you know what? Okay, these are my standard offerings, but where are we all missing the mark here? I do offer custom, strategy. Tell me what it is that is, that you still, the questions that you still aren't getting answered. And I'd be more than happy to come up with a customized solution for you. It's a lot of work and a lot of people don't like to do it. So that may be the thing that moves the needle. I don't know. And the only way to know this with your ideal target audience is trial and error. A lot of marketing is trial and error. You're going to fail a lot. Don't give up. Just keep going. Because when you hit whatever's working, you just go with it, and it actually really works.
It's exciting too when you've tried all these things and something works. It's like, oh my goodness, I have a little bit more of a formula, an understanding about what's going to really make this happen.
Exactly. And so that's the competitive differentiator. The trusted advisor or authority campaign is kind of when you know that the deal is pretty much closed. And this is just kind of like solidifying the fact that they made the right decision. Some people have like almost buyer remorse, like they're getting ready to sign and then they freak out because they don't know. And so again, this would be somebody who is just about to sign, or, they said, I'll get back to you in a month. You put them in a trusted authority campaign that proves, usually by third-party sources, that you are the right choice to them. So are there any features that, you know, have you been a guest speaker someplace? Have you been featured in any articles? So this is more about like street credibility, you know what I'm saying? So this is less about, yes, I'm the great choice because I'm so fabulous. It's more like, well, 10 people on Google said that I'm fabulous, or I was asked to speak on this topic because, right? So this is just helping them to feel a lot more comfortable in the decision that you know that they are about to make. So this is really, really qualified. You know, you can even send it to people who have signed that contract so that they're not thinking, oh my God, did I make the right decision, right? And so that would be the final case. And then
I do a lot of like sharing or sending around of articles, right? Just that might be important to them.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to write something brand new. You could see an article that's relevant and just like, hey, I saw this, and
add commentary to make it your own. Like, I love this article because these points specifically covered, you know, what I've experienced myself, or what I tell my clients, or something like that. All right. And then finally, the re-engagement campaign. So this would be for maybe customers who have not interacted with you for a really long time for whatever reason, or stay leads, people that you thought were really qualified, but for whatever reason, they decided not to move on. I found many times with my stay leads, there are usually two things happening. Either they decided to go with somebody else and they're really happy. So at that point, they're no longer part of my funnel, right? Because they're happy, they're not going to go anywhere. And you should always give people the choice to unsubscribe, by the way, from all of these campaigns, because you don't want to become a pest, right? And it should be clear and easy where they can see it. A lot of times, what has happened is that they are not aware of maybe newer products and services that you offer currently, right? So maybe they worked with you 5 years ago and they were happy, there was nothing wrong, and then we all moved on with our lives, and they haven't really been keeping, you know, you haven't been keeping in touch. And so now this is an opportunity to re-engage them and let them know about new things you may be offering. And again, this could just be like, you know, a short video saying, hi, how are you? Haven't heard in a while. Just wanted you to know that as of 2021, I'm offering this great new service. Join me at a webinar so that we can have a discussion about it. So these would be to warm up your former customers, as well as stay leads, your one last try to see if you can, you know, funnel them back into a campaign that can convert them.
Yeah, Tempest and I did a sales course, and one of the things I liked that they recommended at this stage was an email that just basically says, you know, it's okay if you went with somebody else. Can you just tell me, like, should I close the books on this?
Right.
So stop bothering you, kind of thing, in a nicer way. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, be authentic.
Not at all. Not at all. And sometimes if you're lucky, they're a little embarrassed because they did go with somebody else and it's not going so well, and they were ashamed to tell you. But the fact that you reached out to them, this happens to me a lot. The fact that you reached out to them kind of makes them feel like, yeah, maybe I should, you know, not keep paying for something I'm not happy with.
Right.
But because you reached out, the embarrassment is a little less because they're not having to come back and admit straight out that they made the wrong decision or the wrong choice.
And a couple of questions. Should we take this slide down so we can ask some questions, or you're more on this slide?
Yeah, I just wanted, we can. I just want to share the platforms that people can look into,
so
and then
in this process, Petia. So you have a client that you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stays in the trusted advisor area, right? Because you want to continue to be communicating with them, you know, to enforce their decision, right?
Right. Your current clients should always still be receiving communications from you, because it kind of like reinforces that they made the right decision, right? But you will pull them, of course, out of any sort of nurturing campaign situation, because then you just become an annoyance, and just send them, like, you know, updates. Maybe there's a new press release about something. Maybe you're making an appearance someplace. Maybe, you know, just to kind of to keep making them feel comfortable in the fact that they made the right decision. Before I take the slides down, I'm just going to share one last some resources for you to explore if you're thinking of doing nurturing campaigns, and then we'll just have a discussion. So here are some lead nurturing software for small businesses. Again, this has to be an automated process, and it can be very tedious in the beginning to think about, you know, pieces of content and how you're going to organize it and all of this sort of thing. And again, this is another area that I would invest in working with a professional with, because, you know, you may have all of the assets and all of the content. All of these software have their own sort of like tweaks and things that, you know, technical things that need to be figured out. So instead of, you know, figuring it out yourself, if you can get somebody to help you, that would be great. So pricing wise, I chose automation campaigns that are not, they all do the same thing. You can set up different versions of campaigns with them, but they won't, you know, make you broke. So there's Nutshell, HubSpot. Many people don't know. They do have a pretty affordable version. They have their Marketing Hub and Sales Hub. They're both $50 a piece a month, and you don't have to use both. They also have a free CRM product, which works pretty well. Keep, $79, Autopilot, and Pipedrive. I mean, and there are thousands of these softwares, of course, but I just think for a small business, what I find is that a lot of people start small, and as they grow, they kind of move on to something else, or they upgrade to more complicated versions of the software. So again, this is an automated process that you should not be thinking of doing manually yourself, because it just doesn't work that way, especially when you need to figure out where to funnel people once they start showing you their different types of interest. All right.
Once you professional, so you probably need a professional if you really don't know who your target audience is, right? So that's the first place you need it, I would say. So if you don't and you need help with that, then that's when you should reach out to someone like Petia. Or you got to get started in this automation process, and you know, you can try and figure it out yourself. That's totally fine, you know, but if you start with somebody who can help you, then you can kind of go off and guided way.
Exactly.
So Mark has a couple of questions.
Sure.
So I'll start with the second question first. So for B2B, you know, I think we'd mentioned earlier that 7 is kind of the magic number of when somebody might actually pay attention to you. Mm-hmm. So what kind of frequency for the welcome campaign or other campaigns do you recommend?
Okay, so for the welcome campaign can be a little more frequent than the rest of the nurturing campaigns. So let me back up and say this. Welcome campaign should probably be sent within the first 2 weeks, I'll say, of that first subscription, because you want to gain their attention. Nurturing campaigns should mimic your natural sales cycle, hence the question in the poll. So if you know that it takes a qualified lead, most of you said 3 months. Mm-hmm. If you know that it takes a qualified lead 3 months to close, then the length of your nurturing campaign, whichever one you choose, should be 3 months. If you know it takes a year, then it should be a year, which can get pretty interesting, but a lot of companies do it and it works, right? So the first step, okay, let's go through the steps that are important for this to succeed. Target audience, knowing where you need to be to grab their attention, to funnel them into your lead nurturing campaigns, and knowing the closing cycle for your business so that you can then set your lead nurturing campaigns up to mimic the length of that sales cycle. Make sense? So if you know it's 3 months, then your nurturing campaigns should run 3 months, maybe like every other week, every 3 weeks. And these are questions that you can ask your existing clients. Like, you know, how often would not be too often to hear from me if you were trying to make this decision that you made?
I get those sometimes too. It's like if you want to control your preferences, right? It's like
exactly
once a week, once a month, whatever it is, you know.
Right, absolutely.
And some of it'll be trial and error. So if you find that a lot of people are starting to unsubscribe, right? I'll go back to Mark's first question in a second, but you know, Tevis is asking about, you know, a lot less people unsubscribe than you think. You know, it kind of
always
there higher than we imagine, and like even 3 times a week might be just keeping the conversation alive. You know, especially if it's like not super long and all this kind of stuff. And
exactly.
Nobody has patience for that crap anymore.
Right.
You know, and just having a really clear call to action.
Yes, always.
Mm-hmm. Tevis, was there a question in there too, or is this more of an observation? I think you're muted.
You're muted.
We all still do that, don't we?
I know, I do it all the time.
Wasting my genius. What? No, that was just more in response to Mark, because I think that it's scary for us, right?
Yes.
Because we know, oh my God, but But a couple things have really become clear to me, and Mark, maybe this is helpful for you too, that that balance, that if you create an email sequence that really is, we've been talking about, has a balance of like, here's a great article, think about this with this article, or here's this and here's that. And if it's short and succinct, there aren't a ton of bullet points.
Right.
And there's only ever a single call to action in each one, right? You're not asking people to do 50 things. Like, everyone's got the attention span of a freaking flea, right?
7 seconds last time I heard.
Right. Well, which sounds like a lot, right?
I know, right? In these days. But also, like, Mark is also asking too about tone, right? To some degree. So it's like, is it this idea of being apologetic, right? Is that a good approach? And from my perspective, it's like, does that then influence whether or not they have confidence in you? Like, if you're like, I'm sorry, or whatever, if it's an apology.
I don't think you should apologize. Not at all. It makes you feel like you don't have confidence. What are you apologizing for? You're giving them information that can help them. That's not something to apologize for.
Not only that, but if you start with an apologetic tone, they're going to start to doubt their choice.
Right.
Of giving you time.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah, I think there's a delicate balance between like boasting and being like, I don't really know who you are and I don't care who you are because I'm the best and you.
Because I'm the best. Right. Right.
And being like, I'm sorry. Do you ever have those friends that start every sentence with "I'm sorry" and you immediately like,
right? It's not good, right?
What other questions do you guys have? The floor is open. You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Elizabeth.
I have just a kind of comment question. I would say the emails that I get that. So I'm an educator. I'm a IEC, independent educational consultant, right, with a college consultancy. And I both work with students on the counseling process and families and on the essay or the writing component. And I get a lot of B2B emails from test prep companies, from people that want to sell me lists. This is me as B2B emails that I get.
Right. And
they're horrible. Yeah, and my past life was a marketer, a PR person, and I still do content writing. And I want to say to them, let me write your emails for you. They're so bad. Right. Like, hey, E squared PR. It's like,
right, exactly.
What did you do? But the one thing,
Elizabeth, and this is really, I'm really glad you brought this up, because Petia, you think lists are shit, right? Like, don't buy lists.
I don't. I'm not a list buying person at all. I think it's a waste of your time. These people have not given you permission to email them. It used to work back in the day. It no longer works. You just become spam. They have no idea who you are. They don't know why you're emailing them. I'd much rather you start with a really, 100 people who have a clue who you are and nurture them than buy a list of thousands and they're all going to subscribe because you're spamming them. They have never given you permission to enter their inbox. It
makes me mad when I get emails like the one I put on the screen before. I don't know them. I don't want them in my inbox. They're not invited into my home.
Especially when they can't even say good morning, Marjorie. They're like, hello, first name, like bye. I don't.
Right. Anyway, the question or comment I also wanted to make was, I just remember, marketing PR 101, when I write for people, it's value and relevancy. Right. And I would almost say relevancy is more important at this point than value. Like, don't reach out to people if I'm trying to sell my services, and I approach someone that either doesn't have children, their children have aged out, they're like, or they have peanuts, right? They have like little 5-year-olds. It doesn't necessarily work. But one little thing I found, I have a gym rat friend who's an influencer, 35, gay dad, 5-year-old and a 3-month-old. He gave me a shout out on Instagram. I got like 75 followers in 1 minute.
Yes.
And I was thinking to myself, like, how's that helpful to me? They're 35, 36, 37. They have peanuts. Like, I looked at all these people. They're like them and their baby. But I was thinking like, that's going to feed it down the road. Like they obviously are following me because, you know, because this friend said to, but also down the road, they're going to become clients. So that's been interesting for me too. Like that maybe that Babies R Us is not necessarily my ecosystem today, and Gen X parents are really who I want. Like I want 38, 39, 40-year-olds to 52-year-olds. Like that's my sweet spot right now. But you know what? Maybe that's not a bad thing. So
you know,
influencer Instagram
as an expert, like it gets you started, right? And yeah, I can appreciate.
So I didn't think it was relevant, but it ended up being relevant. So I guess that was sort of my comments, not really a question, but my comment is that Instagram really isn't a social stream that where I'm going to get a lot of clients, but it's ending up being something
advisor thing, right? Like, so nurture them, because
I was going to say, send them something,
fast, you know,
I was going to say, Elizabeth, send them something once a year. Those kids are going to grow. So I have a 27-year-old and a 6-year-old. That's a whole different webinar, right? Honestly, I feel like the 27-year-old was 6 yesterday. And so once a year, send them something. Tips for saving for college. Look, it doesn't even have to be about writing the essay. Tips for saving for college, whatever. And if they stick with you over the years, when it comes time for them to do, you know, whatever, because you've been touching them along the years and sending valuable information, you're going to be the first person that they call when they're ready.
Yeah. So Christina asked too, this is a good question. I often get this question. So people attending something like this, like, do you just add them to your list? And
I always ask.
Yeah.
I always ask, right? And most people will say yes. I've never had somebody say, no, don't email. And if they're too embarrassed to say it publicly, then they'll just quietly unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you're doing these things for a reason, right? So like, for example, we want to support everybody that is in this universe, right? And we also want to help them. And at some point we maybe want to work together, right?
Right.
Maybe never, you know, but understanding the relationship of, you know, how something like this is used alongside an email campaign, alongside a freebie on your website, all those kinds of things, right? To feed into the funnel. Yeah.
Right.
What other questions? We have 6 minutes left, you guys. Anybody have a question?
Anybody already doing any lead nurturing? That's I'm always curious to know. Some way, shape, and form, even if it's just a simple welcome. Adam, what are you doing right now?
So first off, great job. I always learn something from hearing you speak, so I'm really happy.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I did just request you on LinkedIn because I thought I earned the ability to be able to request you.
Of course. Everybody can connect with me on LinkedIn.
So I have a new business that's launching next week, and you know a lot of my business population knows about it. But the way that I've been nurturing the leads for it is really just doing check-ins, top of mind, seeing how people are doing, genuinely asking how they are. Right. To be very honest with you, the past month and a half, I've kind of not been on vacation, but I've been preparing for launch, so I haven't really been distracted with anything else. So I actually have the time to like help other people now, which I genuinely enjoy doing. Right. So I've been spending a lot of time just helping other people, doing good, spreading good, not asking for anything in return. And, you know, the way that I'm nurturing for the new business is, you know, people want to support people that are supporting them. So that's been, you know, a lot of it is just good vibes and good energy.
Can I interject for a second, Adam? Because one of the things I noticed is when you guys answered the question about what's your biggest challenge, and I think you had, I hope it's okay, I share, I think you had said 0 lead, you know? And so I just wonder, Petia, should he tweak that? Like, I really appreciate somebody checking in on me and, you know, really wanting to have a genuine connection and conversation. But I almost expect somebody to let me know how I can help them at the same time. Right.
Yeah.
So do you encourage them to speak back to you? Is there some sort of thing of value that you can send to them where they can give you feedback on it? Because if they're not, you know, so two-way conversations need to happen at some point. It can't just only be you sending, because that's how you get information back so that you can continue to speak to them and talk to where their interests lie.
My to be very honest with you, this is a very different type of organization, and I'm learning a lot on my feet because, you know, I'm not necessarily selling something. Actually, it's the exact opposite. I really don't want to sell what my new product is. It's the exact opposite. So it's a little bit unique. You know, I've always taken a lot of pride in, you know, being a leader and, you know, trying to do good and spread good vibes and help other people. And the new business that I'm launching is really about that. So by me doing this and doing the reach outs and everything is actually me supporting, you know, the infrastructure of what we're going to be doing. So to answer your question, what?
I shouldn't have picked on you then in terms of
No, but you're very right though. When people ask me how I'm doing and what's going on, all I've been saying is, you know, I'm just really excited. I have something new coming up in the hopper. I can't really talk about it yet, but you know, you'll know when the right time is to talk to me about it. And, yeah. But I'm really excited to follow you on social media. I hope you enjoy following me back. I do some cool stuff too.
Nancy, do you have a quick question as well? Nancy, you had raised your hand. Nancy Schick. No, okay, sorry. I thought you were gonna. Well, I just want to thank you, everybody. I want to thank Petia for being here, and thank you all for being, you know, really engaged in this conversation. Our goal is to help you grow. And can you tell me, did everybody take at least one tip or do you want action based on this? Yes. Anybody want to? Can you put it in the chat? What action are you going to take based on this conversation? And again, we'll send around the slides, we'll send around the recording, and Petia is open to a one-on-one conversation, and as am I, you know, in our fields. Nancy, your email sequence should reflect your sales cycle.
Absolutely. Yep.
That is, it's like, oh yeah. Elizabeth, rethink my calendar when it's optimal time to begin a lead. Yeah. Like, timing is important. Like, how many times have you, like, today's Earth Day, right? So it's like, imagine how many emails you're going to get today about climate and the Earth. Like, yeah, it's kind of annoying to some degree, but at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, let me do something nice for the Earth today, right?
Right.
Building a nurturing campaign to align with conversion cycle. Yep, similar. Who else?
So in a former life, and think of large companies. I think, we become small business owners and we forget that at some point we worked in corporate. And so in my former life, I worked in a corporate marketing department and we supported sales. And that's what we did, right? We built these nurturing campaigns and the sales reps would funnel their leads into these nurturing campaigns. And my last stint of that was a technology company. And the sales cycle was 6 months to a year. So we had to make sure that we were supporting them by developing these campaigns to nurture those leads. 6 months to a year could be a long time to take people out to coffee, dinners, have phone calls, whatever. So it was really important for us as the marketing department to support the sales reps in that way, right? So, if it's working for a big corporation, it'll definitely work for you. It's just that, big companies have huge resources. So it was an entire marketing department of 15 people doing this, right? So it worked. You're a company of one. So you have to kind of figure out, but the strategies, the reason they do it at the corporate level is because they work.
Yeah.
So
anyone, Liz, you had raised your hand. Do you want to share a tidbit or anything we can do to support you with what you're trying to achieve?
Well, I guess what I was interested in, and this has been really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In terms of shifting, because we've been putting a lot of energy into social media and not getting the traction that I thought. And we were working on a weekly email campaign where it's a website about the arts and all sorts of things in the arts. And we were getting good results with the email campaign, but I was still holding on to social media. But because of this, I'm going to shift over to
sexy, right? It's like, well, everyone's doing it.
So let me, before you completely abandon social media, one of the goals of your social media should be lead gen. So I don't know if you guys are running any paid social campaigns, but one of those campaigns, if you are, should be straight lead generation campaigns. So your ads, lead them to a landing page, collect that data and funnel them into your email campaigns.
Okay, that's great to know. That kind of answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So Great. So thank you, everybody. Connect with each other, connect with us. The next one, based on the poll earlier, will be about sales.
Sales.
Sales,
Right.
sales. I'll send around the date along with the materials from this, and have a great day. Be good, be kind to the earth today.
Right. All right, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Take care.